I'm Ed Chang. Good morning, everyone. The chair of the Bicycle Coalition of Greater Philadelphia, which is a regional nonprofit. We advocate for safety, Vision Zero, and we also have a youth cycling program that works with city youth across the city. Get them on bikes, teach them how to ride, race, and get them out there in a safe manner. I'm also Chief Operating Officer of Arlo Sports, which is a minority-owned cycling and triathlon apparel company based right out here in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. So I have a great slate of panelists this morning, so thank you all so much for joining. We got Reggie Waller here. Reggie is a USAT level triathlon level 2 coach. A Roadrunners America endurance running coach who also coaches triathletes and runners. He's an Ironman athlete, endurance runner, also coach of Team Barlow, our national international team. He's also a fellow board member of the Bicycle Coalition of Greater Philadelphia. And can we announce the new thing yet? Not yet. Not yet. He's got big news coming. He's also another. He was, I think, just nominated for another very large, important board.
Oh, keep our ears peeled.
Rizzo.
Hey.
Riz, come on in.
I don't have a seat anywhere.
Right up front.
You're allowed to bring the baby into the room across the finish line.
As long as she's Era.
That's one of the rules here. We'll go over. Tom Rizzo just completed Ironman North Carolina, brought his baby across the line, but then Ironman disqualified him because you're not allowed to bring people across. Bring people across the family across the finish line, but it was a worthy epic finishing photo. Next to Reggie, we have Kathleen Taffy Medley. So Kathleen's athletic career began in 2014 as she's turning 50, which is weird because Taffy looks like she's 30. I don't understand the math here. But somehow she's turned 50 and gone backwards.
Thank you, Mom and Dad. It's from cycling.
And she just had your
fifth grandbaby yesterday.
God bless. Time at 30 years old, I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense. But that's when she turned 50. She completed her first 5K run, medaled, and she's been hooked on competitive racing ever since. Due to a foot injury, she began cycling in 2017. Now she's a excellent duathlete. Spartan, nationally ranked 2021 All-American USA Triathlon and Duathlon athlete, Everesting Hall of Famer, and earned a number of endurance titles. So she's also a member of the Philly Bike Expo team, squad, Pactamo Ambassador Club, and also KRT, QRT Cycling Club, Major Taylor Club. So Taffy is hooked into she's in.
Thanks for being here.
Next to me is Andrea Berger. Andrea is the Aquatics Operations Director at Fitness Alive in Philadelphia Pools. It's a pool right in center city, very, very accessible. Great location. She's also an open water swim coach at ETA Coach in Medford Lake. So we do open water. They do open water swim training there between May and September. Andrea began lifeguarding and teaching swimming lessons in college, and in 2018 she made the transition from teaching full-time in the Philadelphia School District to coaching full-time in teaching swim lessons at Fitness Alive. She works with adults and youth of all ages to teach them how to swim, get them on the water, in pool and open water. And last but not least, we got Uncle Deke. Not to be confused. I will say I was introduced to Deke not the nosebleed Sadiq, but not nosebleed ride Sadiq, but Uncle Deke.
Yes.
Not to be
shorter and wider.
Uncle Deke.
Sadiq, we're so happy to have here as a longtime athlete and self-proclaimed accidental triathlete. He began doing triathlons in 2021. He's worked with Andrea Berger in the swim, open water swim. He's a member of Tri-Dogs Multisport in Delaware, founding member of KRT Cycling. He's completed roughly a dozen endurance races, including triathlons and marathons. But he just completed Ironman 70.3 Eagleman in Cambridge, Maryland. So
good stuff.
Representing, and he enjoys, when he's not triathleting, he enjoys food and has a career in construction management and also Muay Thai. Hopefully, won't get in. Don't want to get a tussle with this guy. But yes, so great panel. Thank you all for joining this morning. So we want to kind of just kick it off by talking about just kind of opening up the floor. Like, what are some challenges preventing you from getting into multi-sport? By multi-sport, it could be duathlon, run, bike, run, or triathlon, swim, bike, run. If folks want to.
Or aquabike.
Or aquabike, which is swim and bike, no run.
No run.
Yeah.
Swim, bike, done.
Lots of different options there. I know all of you come from cycling backgrounds, I would guess, but what's stopping you from jumping into multi-sport?
Being an adult.
Pardon?
Being an adult.
Being an adult, that's okay. No, adult on swimmers, adult.
Adulting
is tough.
Tough.
We get
It's
it.
very time
Yeah,
consuming.
there is time, and we'll talk about that, balancing, time balancing.
Time and money. These sports can be very expensive.
Sure. Good. No, great.
The
Excellent.
knowledge, like maybe you can ride a bike, but can you ride it efficiently? Maybe you can swim well, kind of thing. So just having access to coaching and just even support to kind of just learn how to do these different disciplines.
Excellent. Great answer.
Knowing where to go.
Knowing where to go.
Knowing where to go.
Excellent.
Knowing where to go for your sport.
Sure. Sorry, let me just also say, I know some of these, DC, New York, where are you all ladies? Philly based?
Philly.
Okay, good. And then Baltimore? Okay, great. And about you, sir? You're Philly, so okay, just so we know location-wise. And Tim Rizzo is in Jersey, yeah.
Jersey. Sweet.
Egg Harbor, New Jersey.
Okay.
Okay. Anyone else? Anyone else to share? Like, what's anything holding you back from hopping into multi-sport?
I think the swimming.
Swimming.
Is the biggest hurdle. Finding, especially in the city, like the right location and resources you have. It's easy to just get on. I know. I was writing it down. But yeah, just because you jump on the bike or put on a pair of running shoes, but the swimming takes a little bit more of a resource in place.
Absolutely.
Not
Yeah.
every gym has that.
Absolutely. Yeah, so Andrea's pool is
Around the corner.
around the corner, underneath the La Meridian Hotel, which is the host hotel. You would never know.
You would
there's
never
a
know
pool
there's a pool there.
It's actually dates back. It was a YMCA.
It was
or-
YMCA. I mean, the pool around the corner is the oldest indoor pool in the city.
Yeah.
So-
So you never know it's there, but it's very conveniently located. Great place to learn to swim. But no, great answers from everyone.
Sweet.
So yeah, I guess we'll just jump right in. I wanted to start first with sharing some of the stories, because a lot of what folks have raised, I think, have been barriers as well for the folks here on the panel. But yeah, maybe we'll start with I guess maybe Taffy, to share your journey to multisport, like how you got involved into it.
Okay, so greetings everyone. Good to see you this morning. I started off running. So as Ed said, I was approaching 50 years old, the weight, the metabolism going down. Said I really have to become active, and I've always been a competitive person, even though I was mostly music inclined. Never did sports in high school, never did sports in college. I was on music scholarships, but I've always been athletic in the back of my mind. So I actually decided, since I ran for fun, for exercise, to compete in a 5K. And I medaled. You know, when you medal and you're competitive, you're on to something. So I was easily caught up by that. And ever since then, every weekend, I found it so easy to find a 5K near me. That's the Google, 5K near me. Every weekend, 5K, Saturday, Sunday, 5K, every weekend. So when I turned 53, I said, okay, I'm going to do 53 5Ks this year, and that's what I did. So you know what can happen, overuse injury, okay? Because I am in 50s and I quickly, got active in the sport. So I got, plantar fasciitis in both feet. So I said, I'm still going to run. I enjoy running, but I need to run a little less. So I started cycling, and I was cycling as a high schooler. So I got into cycling. My husband also cycles. And I said, okay, this is good. I'm good at this. I think I could do a little bit of running, a little bit of cycling, mix it all up, duathlon. There you go. So competed in the duathlon, first place. I'm in my 50s, so, I'm like, how many other 50-year-olds out there are going to be competing against? And ended up doing well in that, so, I got hooked. I'm not really afraid to try something And that's my advice to you. Get out there and see how well you do. You're competing against people mostly, of course, there's the gender piece, but there's also your age group piece. See how well you do against people in your age group, kind of track your numbers, and just try to it's you versus you. Try to see if you can improve your time. Get out there and run, read. I've never had a coach. I've always read. I've been really diligent about reading things. I read listen to podcasts while I'm running. I listen to podcasts when I'm riding during the week. So that's where I've gotten all the knowledge. But I easily got hooked onto that. My husband doesn't compete, but he rides with me as well. And I enjoy all the organizations. You can learn something by all the organizations, whether it's Major Taylor, Velo Sports. Philly Bike Expo. There's so many people you can gain knowledge from. So my journey started really late, but it accelerated, and I got into the sport and I grew really quick. So that's how I started. That's where I am. So I'm 58 years old now. Last year I was All-American in duathlon, and that was just by happenstance. I wasn't trying for it, but when you sign up for races, you either pay the fee or you join. I said, might as well join. So I've always got this license for all my competitions, and then I got this thing in the mail that says, hey, you're All-American. Like, what? Why are you kidding me? So there's so much pleasure to be gained, and also you're an example for a lot of the other people who are considering the sport or don't see people like them in the sport. So that's basically my journey, and I'm loving it. I'm enjoying it, and I'm hoping my grandchildren will also get into the sport. I'm going to encourage them to do that. All right.
Awesome. Thank you, Tabby. So just for folks, what is a duathlon?
Oh yes, so a duathlon is where you run, bike, and run. I told Andrea, we met over FaceTime. I've tried to swim. I can swim underwater. I can swim on my back. But competitively on top of the water, I just haven't been able to do it. No one's been able to teach me. But she's going to teach me. And I'm not afraid. I would love to run, bike, and swim because the two runs can be grueling. But guess what? Competitively, everyone else is doing the same thing. To just give it all you got, Learn how to push through the pain, and that's what I do.
And what are some of the distances that you like?
Yeah, so if you're doing a super sprint, it could be like a 1 mile run, 10-mile bike, and then a 5K run. But you can also go as far as a 5K run or a half marathon in either of the runs, okay? And the bike for duathlon doesn't usually go over a 20K or like a 15-mile. But yeah, it's always a run followed by a bike followed by the run, and I always try to stick with the USA triathlon sanctioned events so they count towards, the All-American. now that I know it's there. It's fun.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's also, duathlon's a great way. Just I think someone mentioned like cost of entry. You got your bike. I think most of you all have your bikes already. And
Yep.
you can get some running shoes.
Bike run, get in there, see how you do.
Yeah.
There you go.
And we'll talk a little bit about balancing the different training.
Yes, we can talk about training.
Training, but as we get deeper into the panel. So, Andrea, Andrea, you got a great journey. Andrea just finished her first full Ironman Lake Placid, 140.6 last July.
Yeah.
She's also coached by Reggie as well.
Nice.
But just share a little about you have a great journey, Andrea. Why don't you share a little
I
bit?
started just swimming up through, from being a kid up through high school and then club level in college. And I took a break from sports kind of in general. Found my way back to it, I guess, back to swimming as a weight loss tool, like to get active again back when I was, I guess around 2010. I was doing swimming and I was doing some like strength training, CrossFit, and then a friend actually says, hey, let's do a triathlon. I'm like, what's that? and she was like, well, we're gonna ride and then we're gonna run. I'm like, I don't like running. I don't like it. And the bike I had, I pretty much just had a commuter bike to kind of ride around town. So no formal training, just riding around. But we signed up to do it, and it was a sprint triathlon. So it was a 1/4 mile swim, and I think it was a 10-mile bike ride, and then the 5K. And I got through it, and I was like, oh, that's kind of fun. Actually, that's not completely true. After that, right after that, I said, I'm never doing this again.
Immediately following.
And then the next day, I was like, oh, this was fun. But right after, I was like, no, I'm never doing this again. And then from there, I did not really have an idea of what I was doing. I was signing up and doing some of the smaller races. I was not coached. I kind of just started riding around on my own, eventually upgraded my bike and started doing a lot of 5Ks on the weekend, and that helped build some of my run. And then I guess really wasn't until maybe two or 3 years ago where I started to gain more knowledge by joining like a tri club. And that's where I gained a lot more information, a lot more resources, a lot of connections, people to ride with, people to run with. I'm still working on getting the people to swim with. We're working on it. Like, I don't have a problem with this, just trying to get everybody to come together to swim with me. And I also started coaching the swims and the open water swims probably back in 2017 or 2018. Coaching has always been something that I've loved to do. I have a background as a public school teacher, and made that transition from teaching to coaching. And actually left the public schools to do the coaching full time. Really good decision. Just say it. So and then from there, again, having those resources and having that information through clubs gave me the resources and the motivation and the support to get some coaching later on, and then do an Ironman. Which again, we're still questioning that decision. No, I'm just kidding.
It was a great day.
It was a great day. It was a long day, but it was great. So, I've coached adults and I've coached little kids, from people who are afraid to put their face in the water to all the way up to technique coaching. So, I know people are nervous about that swim part, but then they are able to get in the water and do their own race.
Success story.
Success
Awesome.
story.
I love it.
So either way, I mean, some people have the fear of, they say they can swim in the pool and they can't do open water. Some people say they can't swim at all, but we can, across the board. It's good stuff. And then having some good coaching is always good helpful. He's not paying attention. Some good coaching is good. So, some good coaching is great. So that's it.
Great, thank you so much. And last but not least, Sadiq, who is a participant in the panel, sitting where you all were last year, right? Sadiq, had you done a multi-sport by that?
No.
No. So okay, there you go. So Sadiq was in the audience last year at this same panel.
He had done a sprint.
He'd done a sprint triathlon, right?
Yeah, you had just done your sprint.
So he went from sprint to a half
remember.
Ironman.
He had just done his
Time is
sprint.
escaping me.
Yes, he had done a sprint.
But it's certainly when I started to get like really excited about it. I can definitely vouch for Andrew's coaching ability. She taught me open water swimming, which was like probably the hardest part for me. But my journey's like I said, I'm an accident that I'm here. My background, I grew up playing and doing everything. Ran throughout college, and then into adulthood, I started getting into marathons and things like that. Much like Taffy, I got hurt, bought a bike to had to do something else. Around that time, Karan founded KRT, and I just so happened to have a bike, and I'm like, yeah, I'll ride. The community piece of it, it kept me coming back. So now I'm a runner and a bike rider.
Sweet.
Kept coming around. Last year at this event, I met Greg Cephas, I believe his last name is. Greg Cephas, and he's a triathlete. And he's like, yo, he's done. I'm like, all right, I'll do it. And I showed up one Saturday in September, and we swam 400 meters, and I had tough go at it, and I biked, I ran, and all right, I like the challenge of it. So here I am, you know, just trying to push my body to its limits and figure out, you know what I mean, like what's the what I can get out of this body of mine.
Good, sweet.
It's awesome.
I'm just
Thank
going
you.
to piggyback on the fact that, you know, just to push your own limits, and it really is, and also to piggyback off what Taffy said, a lot of it is, there's a competitive piece, but it's really you competing against you,
Yes.
and not what anyone else is doing. I mean, there's always those goals to strive for and to do better, and some people's goals are to just podium, and some are just to do better than they did the day before. So there's that support and option. You know, it's not always just about winning the race, it's about what you can do for yourself. So
Some great stories. So Sadiq, I guess some of the questions folks raised in the audience, like adulting or learning, how did you overcome kind of not, maybe, I assume you knew how to swim a little bit, but then how did you overcome that? How do you go from 0 to 1.2 miles swim in a half Ironman?
Yeah, so one of the young ladies mentioned like efficiency. Like I can swim. Like I grew up like lifeguarding, and you know I could always swim pretty well. But if you guys know anything about Philadelphia pools, they don't they don't actually go above your head. So swimming in Philly is like not a big deal. I think a lot of it is just time management. I mean, training for a 70 mile race, there were days where I was training for like 4, 5, 6 hours a day. You know what I mean? Like, you really just gotta carve out the time, wake up early, go to sleep late, do whatever in the middle. But still, to this date, the swimming piece is the toughest part for me. I could probably stand to shave 20 minutes off of my time if I just figure out how to swim straight, which is not easy. You can't see anything in that water. So
Good stuff. So Reggie, you want to share a little bit about your story, and then we'll jump into some of the more technical topics.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, I grew up playing soccer, and then I didn't run until I got into high school. And, you know, I was more of a middle distance runner. And then kind of fast forward to 2004, my wife reminded me, we were dating at the time, and she was just like, yeah, I was the one that got you into endurance running because, you know, I was trying to, you know, just hang out with her. I was, you know, running with her to train for her marathon when she turned 30. And I had the slightest idea. I was just like, okay, I like this girl. I'm just going to go out and run. And, you know, I was just like, okay, I enjoyed it. Didn't go to Hawaii with her when she ran her marathon. And, you know, people were asking, like, where's the guy you're dating? And, you know, I was like, hey, I'm going to stay back in Philly just in case this doesn't work out. I don't waste my time going to Hawaii. But, you know, yeah, we've been married 17 years, so definitely blessed. But, you know, fast forward 2008, got into the Broad Street Run, and there's kind of like, it seems like I always get duped with getting into something because my good friend at work, he's lives down in North, or grew up in North Philly, said, hey, let's do the Broad Street Run. I was like, oh, that's great, you know, let's do it. Signed up. He hasn't ran since, you know, at all. Like, so I showed up at the race, caught the bug, and in 2011, same thing, good friend at work. He was just like, hey, let's do a triathlon. He was really into CrossFit. I was like, okay, you know, let's do it. Tone still hasn't done a triathlon. So you kind of see like a trend here, you know. And I would say it's definitely been a great experience for me. You know, and Taffy said it's like a you versus you. You know, I go out there and look at what I'm capable of doing and not worrying about, you know, the next person that's, you know, standing next to me, because you never know how somebody's training. Somebody can go out there and have the best race of their life, but that's the only race that they're doing for the season. So they can devote that time into, you know, that particular training block or what have you. So again, it's you know, it's you versus you. I mean, when this guy was 3, I remember I was training for my first full Ironman in 2016, and I didn't have the traditional training block like I wanted. When I trained, I didn't start until 8:30 at night. So I was on the bike like 8:30 to maybe 11. I was hitting the pool at LA Fitness out in Montgomery County, like, probably about 9 o'clock, and then I would swim until 11. So my training blocks look very different than some of my peers who will wake up early in the morning, 4 or 5 o'clock, get their training in, and I'm sitting there looking at Facebook and Instagram, and I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? And I finished one of the toughest races out there. And, as a coach, that's what I remind athletes is, what is your why? Why did you sign up for this particular race, whether it's a duathlon, marathon, triathlon? And, don't beat yourself up because you're not on that same path as someone else, because I heard, being an adult, time and money, knowledge, support, knowing where to go, all those things are, just little hurdles, but, it's being informed like this, asking questions is, you continue to ask these questions, and you'll be surprised at how many people are willing to help you and, help navigate you to resources. So again, not everything needs to be lined up, because when I did that first triathlon in the pool, I looked over at my wife, because it was a swim in the pool, bike, and then run. And, once I got out of the water, I was the last one out of the water, and I had to sit there on the side sometimes, get my breath, and then swim another 50. And I was the last one out of 12 people in the pool because they had us go in waves. And I was like, oh man, this is, and after the race, I asked my wife, I was like, how did I do? She was like, you need to work on your swim. I was like, thanks, but she was, she kept it real. And, once I got out of the water, I started passing people on the bike, and I was just like, this is weird. And you can't win it in the swim. You still gotta go through the bike, and then you still gotta go through the run. So it's like balance. How do you create that balance? And it's going to be different for everybody. It's like that secret sauce for everybody. It's like, we're not going to be one and the same.
Excellent, great. And we'll get a little bit more into that. But I guess someone raised the swim and just finding places to swim. We have a place in the city. YMCA is a great, a lot of YMCAs all over the country are great places to kind of start with swimming. I'm an adult onset swimmer. I couldn't swim more than one lap. I was like, dying. So it can be done. Just kind of you gotta just work on it, focus on it. And it's a challenge, right? This is just something that it's just. I guess for me, it was something fun to try to challenge myself to do. But I think everyone can do it. Just put some time in it, and it's fun to kind of push your boundaries, see what your body's capable of, like Sadiq said. But Andrea, being a swim coach, like what's your kind of recommendation? Someone who can't swim more than a lap. Like how do you go from that to say a sprint? Just for folks' background, a sprint triathlon is usually a 400-yard swim. And then how many laps is that? 400, like back and forth, 25.
So, you want me to do math?
Yeah.
This is math.
400 yards swim. 16.
Yeah.
Coach, thank you.
I'm like, math?
16 laps back and forth, so not terrible. And a 12-mile bike, just not terrible. And then a 3-mile run, usually. That's your typical sprint distance, and that's what folks start with. So how do you, Andrea, like what are some tips?
I think it's kind of the same regardless of what discipline it is. Like, swimming may the hardest, but I think for me, where running is the hardest. It's consistency and getting in there, and every day, every other day, just putting in that practice to expand your lung capacity and to push yourself a little bit farther. Maybe one day you're able to swim one, and without taking a break. The next day you go back and you get to turn around, and maybe you get halfway down the pool on the way back, and then the next day you're able to go up and back. The same thing, like when you're running and you're training for those longer distances, you start out running a mile at a time, and you can run 2 miles at a time, then you can do, you do your 5K, then you got your 10K. So it's the same, I think, regardless of what discipline that you're in, but you still have to put in that work. And if you have someone in there in the pool to, if nerves are your thing, to kind of help coach you through, or to be by your side, or to write you some sort of a plan to kind of build on that. But I think it really is just a lot of getting in there and practicing a little bit more every day. It's not gonna, it doesn't happen overnight, but it can happen. And I think once you're able to figure out I think the thing about swimming is people are like, oh, it's more tiring. It is. You don't have access to air the whole time, right? Your face is in the water. So once you can get past some of those swimming barriers, then I think it'll be able to take off. But so maybe a little bit of coaching, and then the time is on you to put in that further, to build that endurance. But for people who are not afraid of being in the water, a couple lessons for technique, and then putting in the time.
Yeah, I like that. And I think just for me, the biggest thing was also just don't feel like you got to go in and just do 400, right? It's
No.
that first day, don't be discouraged. And it's like Andrew said, maybe your first day you go all the way down and just stop there, take a break, and then come back. That's it. And just kind of, you'll work your way. I think it's always surprising, in a week or a month, you keep doing that, all of a sudden maybe you can do 4 back and forth without stopping, but you kind of just build up to it. Don't be discouraged in terms of like, oh, I can't do this, it's too much for me. It's okay, everyone started in that position, except maybe some folks that started swimming, but I know, even in the pool now.
But
like,
I remember though, even as like a little kid, like learning how to swim, like, and even especially coaching kids of all ages, I mean, even big kids, right? Just that technique, you have to figure it out. It's that breathing component is it kind of what, makes it a little bit more difficult. And then once you kind of get that, then it kind of all starts to fall into place. But once you, again, learning as a kid and teaching others, that's kind of like the biggest role, but then you can keep going.
Yeah, our founder, Varlo Sajjabo, he likes to tell the story of when he first started swimming. He was a collegiate track and field athlete, Central Michigan Division I runner, 400-meter specialist, had a lot of muscle. He would just sink. But he still has a lot of muscle. But he would tell the story that he would keep pennies, a pack of pennies at the end of the pool. So every time he swam back and forth, he'd move a penny, and that's how. And also, it was a good time to take a break. You take a rest break, but something as simple as that. Just again, you're breaking it up. You swim back and forth, move the penny. If you have to do 16 of those, you have like 16 pennies, and it's old school, but you don't need a special watch. You don't need some fancy thing. Just go back and forth, and just that. You just do the work. Okay, go back and forth.
At that point, it's more about just spending that time in the water, not about how far you're actually swimming.
Correct. And again, it's more the challenge, and again, not being discouraged, and not feeling you have to do it all at once, but just having that, just going through that process.
And for people who like Saj, who say that they're just going to sink, that's not true. You can still swim, even if you think that you're going to sink like a brick.
I'm a sinker.
You can still swim.
Yep. Like I say, it's like getting from point A to point B. It's not how fast, because you can be the first person out in the water, and then that person still has to do that bike and that run.
Oh, story of my life. I wish it was that way, because that's.
We're working on it.
I know. But so yeah, you will not win race in the swim. I wish that was the case, because it would change a lot of things for me. But I often get passed on the bike and the run. I'm like, oh, I'll see you later. So just keep that in mind. But you can lose it in the swim.
And that's the fun thing about multi-sport. Again, you may have every
Right.
person has their own strengths, so you can play to your strengths. Choose races that play to your strengths. If you're a strong cyclist, know that okay, I may be, like Reggie said, I may be a little bit slow coming there out, but if you have confidence, like I'm a strong cyclist, I know I can get this. You're gonna start passing people, and that's where it's fun. And then on the run, kind of pacing
Fun
yourself.
for some, when you see people
And
pass you on the.
this right here, this whole thing right here is the machine, right? So I look at I look at one of my athletes that was out at Ironman Lake Placid. His second triathlon, he hired me in April. The race was in July, and father to working, he did not have the $10,000 bike. He had an older bike. And this guy came in a very great time. Like he was cruising on the bike, and he made a comment of like he was passing people on the higher end bike. So you don't have to walk in with the the best swim gear on, the best bike, the best running shoes like the Nike Vaporfly or what have you. It's your body is the machine. So if you don't have your body together and well balanced, then that's going to present some challenges for getting you potential injury or what have you. So it's like kind of taking all the bells and whistles away from the race, and it's like you have your body together, you have your mind right. No matter what you're racing on, you're going to be able to complete and have a solid race.
Yeah,
So,
I think
you know,
that's
I
a
just
great
try to
point.
remind people of that.
Yep,
Yeah,
it's that
for
fitness.
that cross-
overall fitness.
I was gonna say
and
that
endurance.
the cost part can definitely be intimidating, and I know I don't have the $10,000 bike. I bought mine, you know, my road bike, and my tri bike. They're secondhand. It was like Facebook Marketplace, and it was a random find, and I was like, I saw it, and and it worked. So you don't have to go out there and buy something brand new. It can be whatever works, because your body's going to do the work for you.
And that's the fun thing. So I guess we'll jump into Taffy and Reggie. Maybe talk a little bit about, like, how do you balance, like, time-wise? How do you balance? There's 3 different sport things or 2 different sports. Like, how do you kind of balance that training-wise, like during a week, a week period?
Yeah, so when I'm working with my athletes, the one thing is understanding what is their goal. They're all age group athletes, working professionals. They do not work 9 to 5. I have a couple individuals that are in the healthcare field, so they work 12-hour days. So their training looks, very different during the week. So it's understanding, one, what is their why, what are they looking to get out of this race, and then helping break it down to that Monday through Sunday. So I like to say, okay, normally everybody has time on a Saturday or Sunday in most cases. But with a lot of activities, like, you see I have my son here who's 9. We have activities on the weekend, so Saturdays it's hard to get in that, bike and that long run. So, I like to look at the Saturday, Sunday, try to do a long bike, a long run, and that goes both for duathlon and triathlon. And then during the week, looking at no more than about an hour for a bike run, and then I'm a big proponent on strength training, because I talked about our body being a machine, and I just recently I did an article for the Wall Street Journal talking about strength training and keeping your body strong, so then that way, as because when we think about athletes, and we're training, the first thing to go, and I was, a big contributor to this as well, is like, well, I don't have time, so I'll do the swim, bike, and run. Training goes by the side. And then I ended up in, PT quite a bit. And they were like, well, so you're doing your strength training? And I was like, nah. And they're like, that's why you're here. So I had to step back, and, as I started to get smarter throughout the years, I was just like, yeah, you have to have that strength training in there. So, having some short sessions mixed in during the week between the 3 disciplines, or really 4, because strength is as well. And then that Saturday, Sunday, having that long ride, so that way you can get used to, whether it's a 56-mile bike or 20-mile bike that you have, you're getting yourself up there, ready for race day. Now, it always doesn't line up like that, which is fine, but I think it's just having that consistency. And my coach, when I was actively training, I hired a coach to coach me. I'm not going to try to coach myself, because then I'm not being hard on myself. It's like, oh, okay, well, you can't do it today. All right, fine. My coach would say, hey, do something. Just don't do nothing. If you can't get the full workout in, do partial. But just show up and put the work in, and you're going to surprise yourself. It's going to pay off. I told that to somebody about their race, and they were talking about their full Ironman, and I was like, you're going to surprise yourself. And I remember seeing Andrea come across the finish line at Ironman Lake Placid, and she had a very great time. And again, put the work in, be consistent, don't compare yourself to others, but just finding that consistency is really key.
Yeah, and I think that's great. And just, again, during the week, I think the key is for, even for a sprint, you're not spending a ton of time during the week. It's just being disciplined, spend that hour. And that could be on an indoor trainer. The strength exercises that Reggie mentioned, and it's from his article, these are stuff you can do in front of the TV. They're stuff, you don't need to go to the gym, you don't need to lift a bunch of weights. These are mostly body weight exercises, or exercises you can do with a small weight, or a band, a fitness band. It's stuff you can do in front of the TV. It's just about being disciplined, and you probably should be doing it for cycling even too. Just even for that, just the repetitive use in one direction is can be damaging from an injury standpoint. But I think Reggie has some great exercise. But again, we're not saying you got to go to the gym. When you say strength, it's just, you don't got to go to the gym. You don't have to sign up for a gym membership. Just do it at home. These are body weight exercises. You do it 20, 30 minutes a day. For a session. We're not saying 4 sets of like, you know,
Right,
of
right.
bench presses, you know, putting on stacking on the weights and
Or,
stuff.
I mean, for me, for my mindset, like I would prefer to be in that atmosphere to do my strength training, because when I have all the stuff I need to do it at home, and it collects a little bit more dust. So for me, you know, everyone's going to be a little bit different. I prefer to have that atmosphere of where I'm out in the gym, you know, with people I know or don't know, or for some of the run training sessions, to do that in a group setting, just to kind of, you don't have to do it all alone. You do a group ride, or you do a group run, or on Tuesdays we do, you know, a group kind of track workout to kind of mix it up, and so you're not doing everything all isolated and alone. So the more enjoyable you make it, if you want it to be a social thing, you can. If you want it to be a solo thing, you can. So you can kind of tailor it to however you choose to do it.
I find that it really works if you, like for me, the running part is the thing that is hard to stay at the level where you need to be competitive, you know, or to at least show improvement on. So if I run 3 days a week and I cycle 2 days a week, and then on the weekends do something community-based, something distance, and of course one of the runs has to be a long run. One of those days needs to be where you're doing both sports, so you'll keep your body remembering what it feels like to run and bike and then run again. So it's good to do that each and every week, and then have a pair of dumbbells next to the bed, so every night before you go to bed you're doing sets. All right, wake up in the morning, do some sets. All right, do a video, like Runner's World has an awesome video for working out and using dumbbells and weights for home. I'm self-disciplined, so I can do it all by myself. I got a little calendar, check it off, you know, make sure, look at the schedule to see when I've got to do it, get it done. First thing in the morning, hop up, get on the trainer or what have you. But if you're not that disciplined, then yeah, get to the gym, get a schedule, pay some money, because if that's going to make you go to the gym, you know, and work out, then so be it. But, you know thyself. But it really works. You got to have all those 3 things in there. You got to have the run, you got to have the bike, and you got to have that race that you signed up for. For me, I got to have a race that I've signed up for, that I'm working towards. Otherwise, for me, it's just, you know, vain repetition. But that's the carrot I have, you know. And again, it's always me versus me. It's you versus you. What are you looking to get out of this next race? You know, you want to be top 3. You want a podium. You want to do 5 seconds, 5 minutes, 10 minutes better than your last race. So you know, but it's juggling all that and getting your work done. Hopefully you have a hybrid schedule. You can work from home sometimes, but if not, then get it in where you fit in, and get somebody else that's going to do along with you if you need that, that fellowship or that community piece.
You have a
Yeah,
question?
Do you feel like, I guess, competing in these triathlons, duathlons, these events, have they impacted like your life, I guess, mentally, in the way that you feel about yourself outside of fitness? Or do you feel like you were already mentally strong and you brought that to fitness? Like, how does the relationship between like your fitness life and outside of that work together really?
Great question. Happy or Andrea?
I think it paired. It was part of who I was anyway. You know what I mean? So I felt that after I lost the college community, when I got out of college, and then you get you're in your career and all that. Once all that settled, I kind of needed something else to fill that void. So that allowed me to continue to be myself and to continue to put that drive and that motivation into something. So it was just me. It just gave me somewhere to put that energy. You know what I mean? And be positive. Yeah.
And I think it pairs as well, but I also think that the more I was active, it definitely triggers something in your brain. So whatever kind of workout you're doing, it builds your endorphins and you just feel better. And then you're like, oh, that felt good. I want to go do it again, right? I think it's its own kind of drug in its own right, and then it kind of becomes a little bit addicting, right? And then you push a little bit more, and you're like, oh, I feel good, and it might give you that motivation and that confidence to try something else non-sport related that or maybe you just carry yourself a little bit different because you feel good. You'll see changes in your mood. You'll see changes in your endurance and things that you couldn't do before. And I think in that own right, it's its own confidence builder. I didn't know what a triathlon was when I was 15, 16, 20, whatever years old. I don't know what it was, let alone an Ironman. And then somewhere along the line, someone's like, you can do an Ironman. I'm like, I don't think so. And then somehow, along, your confidence builds. You're like, well, maybe I can. Maybe I can do this, and maybe I can do that. And I think the more that you're like, maybe I can, something triggers, and you're like, oh yeah, I can. And the more and then your mind just switches to, I can do whatever I put my mind to do. If I want to do that, I mean, it might be a shorter process for some or a longer process for others, but if that's what you want to do, whether it's in sport or out of sport, I think if you put your mind to it and that's something you want to do, then I think the sport helps you with setting goals and achieving them in the sport and out of the sport.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It's there's a lot of transferable skill sets in this sport, and I've met so many great people doing this since 2008. Just the relationships, and I look at how I've grown as an individual, a member of my community. Just doing things that I wouldn't have done without this sport. And one of the things that I tell this little guy is, in order to get good, you got to practice. You just can't expect to walk in and be the LeBron of triathlon. It takes practice behind the scenes, and when you're doing this, sometimes it's like, okay, well, yeah, I have to miss this party, or I can't do this, or I can't do that, and it's like, again, what's that why for you? So for me, it was, looking at this saying, okay, I can do this, I think, let me try, and I don't have everything lined up, but I'm going to jump in and do it. And I think about things that I've done in my life where everything wasn't lined up, and I jumped into a project, or I jumped into a board, or I jumped into this, and I'm like, well, hey, I've done this in the triathlon space. I can, again, these skill sets are transferable, and then had, success. My success, again, looks very different than others, but having that, as Andrea mentioned, that confidence to walk in, it's very powerful. And then, the relationships that you build over time are priceless.
Great. So I guess, yeah, great. Yeah, absolutely.
I had a question too. So listening to everyone, obviously everyone's like motivated. We're going hard. What does active recovery or recovery look like for you all?
Good question.
It depends. It depends. I think early on, like marathon, I learned like anything that I've run over 10 miles, like I like ice baths. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people think that they're crazy, but for me, you know what I mean? Like it kind of shocks my body, constricts my blood vessels, and it stops my legs from feeling like they don't fall off the next day. That's important to me. But I also I sleep. Like you know what I mean? Like I think people underestimate the amount of like self restoration that your body can do when you get adequate amounts of sleep. One of the things that hasn't come up, which I'm surprised by, is the nutrition piece. I'm terrible at nutrition. Like I work out, like I always say, like I work out this much, because I'm a fat kid. You know what I mean? Like I would literally work out so I can eat. That is, but the nutrition piece of it, for a lot of people, I think
the other discipline that isn't, that wasn't talked about is true.
Is important. So.
Yeah, I like the compression boots.
Okay.
Always like to stretch after a race run. I like to get a slow jog in. This is the immediate stuff. But then I have to throw in a rest day. Absolutely, I have to throw in a rest day. And then to get back in there, it's a slower jog. It's a slower ride. You know what I mean? And then you're back to your sprints and your time. Yeah.
I think a great pool swim.
But you got to feel your body and how your body feels after the race. It's always different. Yep. But definitely rest.
Yeah, and it's going to be different for everybody. I have some athletes that don't like to take that time off, and they're spending like 14, 15 hours a week of training. And since I've been working with them for some time, I know what works for them. At first, it was like building that trust. So for them, their active recovery looks a little bit different. It could be yoga. It could be maybe a shorter ride or a bike, or maybe just hey, we're going to use swim, because people look at swimming as like, well, there's not a lot of intensity there. Swim is a great low impact exercise for your body. It's just getting comfortable in the water. So you can just do laps, like walk. You don't
even have to swim. You can just go walk in that pool.
Find a pool here in Philly that you can walk in back and forth and just do laps, and you can get yourself like a belt that you put around you, and that's a good active recovery day right there.
Nice.
We have those.
More questions? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's just for the runners. I used to run before cycling, but I stopped. But question. Like, when I used to run, the concrete used to take a toll on my body, like specifically my knees and my lower back, so I stopped. So I'm curious to know, how do y'all deal with running on concrete? Or do y'all balance it out with running in, like, on a treadmill and then running on concrete some days? Because I know the concrete really takes a toll on your body, especially if you're doing a lot of longer runs, even shorter runs. So I'm curious to know.
You're in New York too, right? That's a little tougher. You can't choose like a trail or something like that to run that. But yes,
Good luck finding trails in New York.
Yeah, I would probably say at that point, take it to the treadmill, which is going to give you a little bit more give. So if you can find a treadmill, local gym, that's going to take some of that continuous pounding on, versus the concrete, or maybe using like a Stairmaster or also an elliptical to give you that, again, that forward motion, but take the impact off of the lower body.
Yeah, I would say also just make sure there's something as simple as walking. People underestimate walking. Like start your warm up with a 10-minute walk on the treadmill. You don't have to just jump right in. Make sure it doesn't warm up, and that gets your kind of ligaments going. And then integrate, if you need to integrate run walks like through your training, like a 4-minute run, 1-minute walk, 6. You can kind of increase that to whatever you need to, whatever your body tells you to. But start your run with a run interval, 3-minute run, 1-minute walk, and
Jeff
increase
Galloway.
that. Yeah, the Galloway method.
Jeff Galloway method.
That's how I
Look
did
it
a lot
up,
of my
yes.
races. My coaches
I was
went
gonna
through
say
that, and
something.
there's nothing.
Jason method.
Jason Kildare, yeah. But people run 3-hour marathons like doing that, so don't feel embarrassed or anything. Like that is a proven method, and it really it shockingly reduces the pounding. Just even that little 1 minute, you'll at the end of your run, like, wow, I feel a lot better than.
That was the intention of my marathon in the Ironman, was to do a run, walk, just, it turned into
And
a
you have a
lot
good
more.
point about the concrete. I avoid it.
Concrete's here.
Yeah.
I avoid it. I do not run on the concrete unless, of course, you're in a race and it takes you through the area.
Yeah.
But then that's just for the race.
Right.
But as far as training and every other run, I live in the country, so I'm on the blacktop.
Asphalt.
Or I'm on a
Yeah.
treadmill, like
Concrete
Leslie
kills
said.
me too. I can't
Yeah,
run
bad on
sidewalks.
your knees,
It
bad on
hurts.
a lot of,
Yeah, I have a track right across the street from my house, so like I just do the track. And
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
It has that little bit of a
Very
little bounce to
forgiving.
it.
More,
Uh-huh.
seeing the same stuff.
It's worth the drive over or your bike ride over there to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think shoes go a long way too, though. Like taking the time to make sure that you have, the right shoe, and even like orthotics or inserts. Like 'cause I live in the city. I don't have a choice but to run on concrete. And when I figured out, like, oh, my foot does this. Like I need shoes that, like the kinetic chain, it ends up lining, your body, your knees, your back, and all that stuff up, making sure that you're in, like everything's in line. It went a long way for me. That initial injury that I mentioned, I was wearing wrong shoes. So.
Yeah, just make sure like any kind of running shop, like a specialized running shop, you can go in there and say they'll do a analysis, watch you walk, make sure you got the right supported shoes and whatnot. It's definitely good questions. More questions from folks? I know. Yeah. Yes, sir.
For you, Sadiq, just what you just said. Did you go to a shop that had them do those like specs for you? You kind of did that on your own?
No, I went. Philadelphia Runner. You know what I mean? Like any run store, they put you on the treadmill. They kind of watch you walk. And then they even again they take the time, because I have inserts in my run shoes. Take the time to build those up for you. I mean, if it's really bad, you get in podiatry and all that, but something as simple as a good dedicated run shop, like not so much like the Foot Lockers, but like
Philly Runner
somebody
does it, and it's
specializes.
complimentary.
Right.
And you just walk in and say, look, I'm not comfortable with my shoes, or I think I might not have the right shoes, and they'll put you on the treadmill and do record you and look at you, and then bring you out some shoes to try to see what feels good.
Right, and if you're dealing with the pain of like plantar fasciitis, you go to a foot specialist, they'll mold your foot to the insert, which you could put inside your sneakers, and they're transferable to your sneakers. So I constantly run in those. Yes, molded defects for your foot, arches, everything is exactly where you need it for long-term running. Mm-hmm.
And the only caveat to that is, with the inserts, so when you buy shoes, like people are looking at weight. I want a lightweight shoe, I want quick turnover, and then when you start adding inserts, that then transforms the functionality of that shoe, which it was originated for. So just keep that in mind is, you know, if you're buying a lightweight shoe and you get a custom insert in there, now that's adding more weight, you know, affecting the impact and performance of that shoe. So, you know, I know it's like, you know, people are looking right now, the biggest thing is what's the fastest shoe, what's most fashionable, but you want to go get, you know, fitted like, you know, everyone set up here is, you know, make sure you get in the right shoes so that way you have a good experience, whether it's a run, a walk, whatever the case may be, because then that will impact you and could have long-term impacts by buying the incorrect shoe.
Great. More questions? Yes, sir.
I wanted to add to something that you guys said. You all talk about the importance of starting small and working your way up. And if you guys aren't aware, one of the things you can do with duathlon and try is a relay, where you are on a team or one person is doing each of the sports, whether it's 2 people doing a duathlon, 3 people doing a try. That's how I got into it. So the first race I ever did, I only like my teammates ran and swam. So it was a really good way to get into multi-sport. And just like understanding what a race is like, understanding what transition area is like, and logistics, and like what the whole event itself is like. And then the next time you do it, then you take on off and do like a smaller race. So it's just like an option if you guys weren't aware that you can do. It's like an awesome way to get into it.
Yeah, no, thanks for mentioning that. That's absolutely a good point, because I know Ironman is doing that with the relay, but you know, unfortunately, those are much longer distances, like a 1.2 swim, 56-mile bike, 13.1 mile run. But you do have those local events. I'm looking here at my sheet, like Delmo Sports. They have a women's specific try here in July, so that's a pool swim that you can do. Steelman Racing, which is out at Lake Nakamixon, they offer a relay option as well. That's normally in the August timeframe, and then you have Upper Dublin. That's a pool swim, so you know, for those that unfortunately you can't walk in that pool, but you know, you do a serpentine, so you swim under the divider, and then once you get to the end, you know you're done, and then you get out on the road and do a bike and run. Marshman, which is September, they offer a relay, 2 or 3 people relay as well. So there's definitely a lot of options that are shorter distance, as Greg mentioned. And then the other resource I want to throw out is local tri clubs. So, you know, you have T3, you have Philly Tri. So there are areas where you can kind of participate, be engaged, and have other resources, accountability partners to, you know, share experiences with, and then when you show up on race day, you already have somebody that you know and can kind of get you through the ropes as well, and then you have somebody cheering you on or seeing each other on the race course. So it was good when I did Eagleman, seeing Deke, you know, there on the run, and you know, I remember we were kind of hanging out in transition, and it was just great. It was like a little party where, you know, it's like, hey, you know, this person's coming in from DC or Maryland or Delaware, and, you know, you have your friends, and you're like, okay, well, I know I'm going to see them at some point in the race, and that's like your little pick you up, you know, as you're going along.
Yeah, no, great points. So yeah, in terms of like resources, we have a sign-up sheet here if folks want to, you know, put your email down. We do have a resource guide that T3 Philly actually put together, and it has a ton of this information, nutrition, equipment. And then, so what I'll do is, we have a great panel here. We'll BCC everyone, so you don't get everyone's emails, but all of us. We want to be a resource for you all. T3 Philly, I'm a club member. It's based in Philly. Andrea's on the board, but we have track Tuesdays every Tuesday at University of Pennsylvania and Temple University. We alternate weeks. Everyone is welcome. You know, it's always a good time, very welcoming. There's different workouts planned, or people can just ask questions or just meet new folks. We have a ton of resources all over. New York, we have connections up in New York. I think there's a gentleman from DC, Grit USA. There's a triathlon team in DC. It's a diverse team there. It's a great group to get involved with. So there are a lot of resources all over the country, wherever you are. I know we're wrapping up here at 11:30, but
that's the nice thing about being part of a team or a group, is that you have the resources, and then you have, when you do go to the events, that you also have a familiar face there. Yeah. Whether you're there racing or they're just there to support you, having that whole team vibe is really a good way to get through something, because you know you have seeing a familiar and friendly face out there is nice.
And Team Barlow, we do have a national, as a brand, we do have a national team. Reggie's our head coach there, and yeah, it's good to be part of a local team, I think, and also a national team, just so you have it's 2 different levels, and just to have connections and all over wherever you go is great to have. So any other questions? We're kind of at our time here. Really appreciate everyone coming. I know it went by so fast. There's so many more questions, but please do sign up. Provide your email. We will be a resource for you all. To collectively, and we'll get that resource information out to you, maybe, and as well as some discounts and stuff that you all can use, and
Discounts.
Any questions? Feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to help. We just want to see the sport grow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.